Hello everyone and welcome back to Beatley Tone's Beatles channel. Lovely to have you here. Thanks for joining me for this video and I hope you're all doing well. Now in today's video I'm going to be showing you a new book that I've got, and I think this might be a little bit of a YouTube exclusive because I've not seen anyone else showing this book, or certainly not the channels that I follow anyway. It's called Came the Lightning, and it's the new book by Olivia Harrison, 20 poems for George. So it's a poetry book and there's some nice photos in it as well. Now I'm not sure how much interest there is in this book, and I'm sure we'll find out fairly soon, but this isn't something that I would have bought myself, I don't think, but it was my birthday a few weeks ago, and Mrs. Beatley Tone bought it for me, and now I've got it. I'm very happy to have it because it is a really lovely book. Now it's published by Genesis Publishing, which you may remember, they were the company who published George's book I Mean Mine, and Derek Taylor's book 50 Years Adrift in an Open Neck Shirt. Now when those books came out in the 80s, they were kind of leather bound, very sort of exclusive type books, very lavishly produced with leather, you know, they were leather bound and gilt edge pages and all that sort of stuff, and they cost back then they cost several £100, I think. I've got the paperback of George's book, but I'm not sure how many of those books were made, but they were a very exclusive issue. So this is the book. It comes in this nice slip case, and I'll show you the contents. Before we get to the book, there's a couple of other things that are in here. So you get this kind of like packet with a standalone poem. This is a poem that is in the book. It's poem number 19. It's called Carved in Stone, and you just get this on a separate card, and this is signed by Olivia, and it's got my number on it, which is 644 out of 1500, and so you get that with it. You also get this little bookmark which has the travelling Wilburys on it, and on the back it kind of looks like that. Okay, so this is the main book. It has got the sort of the gilt edged pages on it. The spine looks like that, and you get a little tag in it to show you where you're up to. So opening it up, it looks like that. It's signed by Olivia, and it kind of says on it, this edition is strictly limited to 1,500 copies. This is copy number 844 out of 1500, signed by Olivia Harrison. So there you go. So there are 20 poems in this book. Some are quite short, some are very long indeed. It's the opening picture there of George and Olivia in Friar Park Garden, and the dedication says, to George for lighting the fire, to Danny for fueling it. Now I'm not going to read you lots of the poems that are in here, but I will read you a little bit so you kind of get a little bit of a flavour for it. Some of the poems are really quite interesting actually. Where are you? Where have you gone? There's nothing left of your bonfires but drifting dust, and on our hands burn marks on the imprint of flowers. In the end I found you on the blank page in front of me. There is the contents. That's the 20 poems. You can see the names of the poems, and there you get a foreword written by Martin Scorsese and signed by him as well, and it basically just talks about meeting George and Olivia when they were making the Living in the Material World documentary. So the first poem is called Another Spring, and I will read you this one because this one was written in December 2001, so just a few days or maybe a couple of weeks after George had died. Another spring. All I wanted was another spring. Was it too much to ask? I thought it might be granted and we'd see another April day, that we would warm by each other's side and our faces would abide by the denier's rule and muffle our cries. The corners of our lips upturned towards the sky, but not enough to mask the cruelty of birth and death, pulling our fingers from each other's tips, scanning our swirling prints to remember the smallest whirls and loops, your palm of stars in the final parting at too early an hour. The winter would come and time just stalled. Then the four winds turned on us, whistling, that is all, that is all, that is all. On the final day, I cleansed myself with water and air to be devoid of earthly residues that may have held you here. My scent or whimper, the smell of my hair, I wanted you to leave without any impediments of care. To float away like you always imagined and prepared. I couldn't help myself and nuzzled your ear and whispered final words to leave you with my sound, as a signpost to my soul wherever we are bound. The formless state of nothingness where emotions are consumed are now alone in winter, feeling spring will never bloom. Very nice. Picture across the lake in Friar Park. I think most of the pictures in here are around Friar Park. There's one called The End of the Line there. That sort of looks like the inside of the Brainwashed album. So this poem here is called My Arrival, and it's quite long. It sort of goes on for 4 pages, and it kind of tells the story of Olivia's arrival at Friar Park, and including some things that happened during those early months at Friar Park, including the arrival of Eric Clapton and Patty at Friar Park, which sounds as if it was just a little bit awkward. I'll just read you a little bit of that one. It's called My Arrival. In John and Yoko's long white car, eccentric in its fate, blacked out windows, Persian rugs, we paused at wrought iron gates. From the town hall we heard Christmas carols sung by schoolboy choir. Music for this middle earth, a lush and loamy shire. And it kind of goes on, and this is the bit about Eric Clapton. The legendary slow hand dropped in with the ex-missus. He gave me some advice and 2 friendly welcome kisses. Bare-shouldered bibber t-shirt, blonde hair on top her head. I hung their apprehension and overcoats with dread. 2 ladies of one house, always a little awkward. The guys plugged in their Fender amps and blasted Robert Johnson. With trembling lips she shed a tear, backlit by Gale lamp, like an old Hollywood movie gone with that last chance. And it goes on, talks about some other things that happened at Friar Park in those early days. There's a young George with his Rickenbacker. Poem Song for the Sun. A little bit of handwritten lyrics there. There's their dog Edison. George in the garden. George and Olivia's hand drawings. So this poem here, Heroic Couple, this tells the story of when George was stabbed on New Year's Eve 1999. On the evening of the century that turned from nines to zeros, we were awakened by the wind of 1,000 flinging arrows and the shattering of glass. I knew one day was coming, bare feet firmly planted soon as they would be running. And it does go into quite graphic detail, that poem there. There's a poem there for their dog called Good Dog. This little handwritten note from Jules there. Hi, Liv. It does feel a little bit like you're kind of intruding a bit. I think some of these poems are, very personal, but I guess, Olivia wanted us to read them. This one here is called November the 29th, which is obviously the day that George died. Cruel November, devoid of all but palest flowers, taking everything with you, even our final hours. We were wounded and weak. You swept us aside like the fiercest wind and the meanest tide. The shades of autumn were a perfect disguise, easily fooling my watery eyes. I tried to appease you with the ultimate price, offered the holy things, the marigolds, the rice, to satisfy your need and brighten what is left, the feeling of an ending, a waning moon at best. With just one day remaining, we wandered in your time, leaving you to plunder what I thought was mine. You seized the orchards and dropped all the fruit, shiver us bare until we feel destitute, to be reviled as spring is revered, a display of greedy power before the end of the year, or just your self-fulfilling name with the negative no, with no V, you're just embers, barely aglow. Nice photo there. From maybe 1979. And that's the poem that I've got on the separate carved in stone. I don't know whether you get, depending on which copy of the book you've got, you get a different separate poem, maybe a bit like the Paul McCartney singles box set. There's a poem there called Tree Time, an ode to Friar Park. And there's some I'm not sure if these are handwritten lyrics or a note, but it kind of it kind of ends with, look out kid, it's something you did, God knows when, but you're doing it again, which is obviously from Bob Dylan's Subterranean Homesick Blues. And that's it, and that's the book. So it's just a little first look at the book. We're not reviewing it or doing anything, but it is very nice. But it's it's a poetry book. So if you kind of like that thing, maybe you might be interested in getting it. As I say, some of the poems are very personal, and some of them are tell stories of things that happened. Okay, well that's it. If you want to tell me something about this book, please tell me down in the comments. Love to hear from you. As always, as you know, I read all your comments and I will respond to all your comments. It's been a bit of a George heavy week with the 2 album ranking videos, and we've kind of finished it off with this one, which is a much shorter effort. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little first look at Olivia's book, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye bye.